The seventh planet from the Sun, Uranus is one of the strangest and least understood planets in the solar system. 4 times bigger than Earth, this planet has both short days and incredibly long years. It is a blue-green gas giant with more than 60 times the volume and about 15 times the mass of Earth. Because of its lower density than Earth, it has an atmosphere with a top gravity that is 11 weaker. The planet has around a 31,800-mile or 51,100-kilometer equatorial diameter. Around Uranus, there are 2 sets of rings, a set of inner rings consisting mostly of narrow, dark bands, and 2 more distant rings discovered by the Hubble Space Telescope, which includes a reddish inner ring and a blue outer ring. But that is just the elevator pitch on this planet. Let's dig a little deeper, shall we? Number 10. Compared to Earth, Uranus is huge. Uranus has a diameter of about 4 times the size of Earth. The planet has a radius that is 15,759.2 miles or 25,362 kilometers, compared to Earth's radius of 3,959 miles, 6,371 km. Since that might be a little difficult to actually visualize, if we were to shrink Earth to the size of a large apple, Uranus would be the size of a basketball by comparison. Uranus is 19.8 astronomical units from the Sun, about 1.8 billion miles or 2.9 billion kilometers distant on average. The distance between the Sun and Earth is 1 astronomical unit or AU. Sunlight travels from the Sun to Uranus in 2 hours and 40 minutes from this distance. That's pretty big, but even Uranus is a fairly small planet in the greater scheme of things. Number 9. Uranus's atmosphere is not conducive to life. The atmosphere of Uranus is inhospitable to life as we know it. As far as we can ascertain, life as we know it could not adapt to the severe and volatile temperatures, pressures, and materials that make up this planet. With a small amount of methane and traces of water and ammonia, the atmosphere of Uranus is primarily composed of hydrogen and helium. Methane is responsible for Uranus's distinctive blue hue. More recent observations show that Uranus has dynamic clouds as it approaches the equinox, including fast-changing bright structures. Voyager 2 observed only a few discrete clouds, a great black patch, and a small dark spot during its flyby in 1986. In some locations, Uranus's planetary atmosphere is considerably colder than Neptune, with a minimum temperature of 49 degrees Kelvin or 224.2 degrees Celsius. On Uranus, wind gusts can reach a maximum of 560 miles per hour or 900 kilometers per hour. At the equator, winds are retrograde, moving in the opposite direction of the planet's rotation. However, as one gets to the poles, the wind changes to a prograde direction and moves with Uranus's rotation. Number 8. Uranus's orbit and rotation are extraordinary indeed. A day lasts roughly 17 hours, the time it takes for Uranus to rotate or spin once. And it takes Uranus roughly 84 Earth years to complete one orbit of the Sun. Put another way, 1 year in Uranian time equates to about 30,687 days on Earth. Uranus has a tilt of 97.77 degrees and is the only planet whose equator is almost at a straight angle to its orbit. We are not entirely sure why, but Uranus may have collided with an Earth-sized object long ago. The most intense seasons in the solar system are brought on by this peculiar tilt. The Sun shines directly over each pole for over a quarter of every Uranian year, sending the other half of the planet into a 21-year-long gloomy winter. Additionally, just 2 planets, Uranus and Venus, rotate from east to west in the opposite direction from the majority of the planets. Number 7. Uranus has a lot of moons. There are 27 known moons that orbit Uranus. The moons of Uranus are distinctive in that they are named after characters from William Shakespeare and Alexander Pope, unlike the majority of satellites that orbit other planets whose names are derived from Greek or Roman mythology. All of Uranus's inner moons seem to be made up nearly equally of rock and water ice. The outer moon's makeup is unclear, however, and it is likely that they are asteroids that have been captured. Number 6. It has some rings too. Not only does Uranus have some moons, but it also has 3 sets of rings too. There are at least 11 rings. There are 9 narrow main rings, followed by the 2 more recently discovered outer rings. The inner rings are dark and opaque, with a very low albedo. Astronomers believe that they're made of water ice mixed with organic molecules. The outermost ring is blue like Saturn's E ring, and the outer ring is reddish like other dusty rings in the solar system. The names of the rings are Zeta, 6, 5, 4, Alpha, Beta, Eta, Gamma, Delta, Lambda, Epsilon, Nu and Mu, with Zeta being the closest to the planet. Belts of fine dust encircle several of the bigger rings, which are often argued to be rings in and of themselves. Number 5. There is no true surface to the planet. Since it is an ice giant, Uranus lacks a real surface, so to speak. This is because most of the planet is made up of swirling fluids. A spacecraft wouldn't be able to travel through Uranus's atmosphere unharmed, but it also wouldn't have anywhere to land. If ever attempted, a metal spaceship would be destroyed by the intense pressures and temperatures. At least that is with our current knowledge of material science. Number 4. Uranus has a very strange magnetosphere too. Uranus, as we've seen, is a very strange place indeed. But it gets weirder. The magnetosphere of Uranus appears to be unusually formed. Magnetic fields are generally aligned with a planet's rotation. However, the magnetic axis of Uranus has tilted about 60 degrees away from the planet's axis of rotation and is also displaced from the planet's center by a third of its radius. The uneven magnetic field of Uranus causes auroras to not line up with the poles as they do on Earth, Jupiter, and Saturn. Millions of miles of space are covered by the magnetosphere tail that follows Uranus to the other side of the Sun. Uranus's sideways rotation causes its magnetic field lines to twist into a lengthy corkscrew shape. Number 3. Uranus is made of hot, icy stuff. Uranus is one of 2 ice giants in the outer solar system. The other is Neptune. Over a tiny rocky core, hot, dense fluid of icy components like water, methane, and ammonia makes up the majority, 80 or more, of the planet's mass. Temperatures can reach 9,000 degrees Fahrenheit, 4,982 degrees Celsius towards the core. Despite having a lesser mass, Uranus has a somewhat bigger diameter than its neighbor Neptune. Saturn is the least dense planet, making Uranus the second least dense after that. Due to the presence of methane gas in its atmosphere, Uranus has a blue-green tint. Sunlight enters the atmosphere of Uranus and is reflected by its cloud tops back out into space. Blue-green light is produced when methane gas absorbs the red component of the light spectrum. Number 2. Uranus probably smells like rotten eggs. In 2018, Gemini's Near-Infrared Integral Field Spectrograph (NIFS) was used to determine the composition of the upper layers of the Uranian atmosphere. It was discovered that the clouds in these levels are made of frozen hydrogen sulfide. This is the same ingredient that gives rotting eggs their distinctive odor. This substance's presence in the planet's upper layers is proof that Uranus did not develop in its current orbit. It was, therefore, probably born closer to the Sun than any other huge planet, and over the first tens of millions of years of its existence, it moved to where it is now. Number 1. Uranus is the coldest planet in the solar system. Uranus, the 7th planet from the Sun, orbits at an average distance of about 2.88 billion kilometers. However, it is still a lot closer than Neptune, which is on average 1.74 billion miles or 4.5 billion kilometers from the Sun. This does not, however, change the fact that Uranus is colder than Neptune. The former has temperatures that range from a low of 360 degrees Fahrenheit, 218 degrees Celsius, to an average of 318 degrees Fahrenheit, 201 degrees Celsius. On the other hand, Uranus's cloud top temperatures, which are considered to be the surface temperature for gas giants, range from 375 degrees Fahrenheit or 226 degrees Celsius to an average of 323 degrees Fahrenheit or 97.2 degrees Celsius. This is because Uranus emits less heat than it takes in from the Sun, in contrast to the other big planets in the solar system. While the cores of the other major planets are extremely hot and emit infrared radiation, Uranus's core has cooled down to the point where it emits little energy. Bonus fact: you can actually see Uranus with the naked eye. You might be shocked to learn that a telescope is not always necessary to observe Uranus. Uranus is barely within the range of brightness that the human eye can detect at magnitude 5.3. However, you would need to know exactly where to look and ensure that the night sky was very dark, that is, there was no light pollution. Because of this, ancient and early modern astronomers were able to see Uranus quite frequently in the past. However, because of how dim it was in comparison to the other planets, it was frequently mistaken for a star. In fact, when Flamsteed first noticed it, he categorized it as 34 Tauri because he thought it was a star in the constellation of Taurus. And that is your lot for today. Uranus is certainly a strange planet, but we have only touched the surface when it comes to understanding much about it. With some new missions to the planet planned in the future, we can only imagine what we will learn about our planet's very distant cousin. Please check out our other videos in the Amazing Planet series. Thanks for watching.